Welcome everyone to this regularly scheduled board meeting of the South Dakota PUD. If you would all please rise, please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's get down here. If you behave, we'll let you move up the seat. All right, thank you everyone for coming. At this time, do we have any comments from the audience on items that are not on our agenda? Okay, let's see if they rush to volunteers. Do we have any corrections to the agenda or consent calendar? No, I'll take a motion. I make a motion. Okay. 1, 2. Yeah, it came up, so stay a second here. It came up again, we do it again. Okay, we got the required 3 votes. All right, it looks like, who's doing this? Lynn, the climate action plan for capital improvement?
So John was talking at the last board meeting a little bit about all the district's efforts to pull together information about climate change, future goals. This is one small piece of a lot of the actions that the district is taking, and it's very much focused only on our capital improvement plan. The State Water Resources Control Board has kind of tied their funding to looking at climate change goals or wanting districts to at least consider it when they're doing planning and design for their capital improvement. So this was our first effort at showing the state we are looking at this for our capital improvement program. So it's a really focused plan. Like you guys have the final available. You're welcome to make comments. We still have time to incorporate those before we send it to the state. We do have to have them available this time. So any other questions about it?
Now, I understand this is, while not required for the qualified for state revolving funds loans, it's if it fills a checkbox as if there's a waiting list or whatever it is, we've looked up on us a little more favorably. Is that correct?
It actually gives you points. So now the wastewater SRF program is competitive. That did not happen in the past. In the past, it was the first come, first serve. And so as they kind of move the projects forward and have money, they just assign those dollars. It doesn't work like that anymore. It's now competitive and you're competing against other projects throughout the state. One of the things they give points for is, are you looking at climate change for your projects? And
so if it's a competition, this will just be a little bit more.
Get a few more points for the fact that we're meeting.
And I also noticed on the report as I read through it, it really is more of a best practices thing than it is anything else. In other words, okay, the title is let's prepare for climate change, but really it's let's just be ready for contingencies. And I don't see that is really any divergence to what we already do.
I think that's probably true. So the plan is just to show the state we are considering these things. Right. It doesn't tie us to having to do anything, but it says we are actually considering all of this when we design our capital.
We don't just rush into things blindly. We actually think about what we do, right?
So that's really all this plan was intended for. Some of the benefits of it was finally pulled into one place. A lot of the information that, I mean, decades of power use and a lot of information.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting.
And then this will give us maybe 3 points out of a total of about 12 or 13. So
that's correct.
It's a third of the way there, a third of the way there.
So we're trying our best to make sure that our application for the Tucson Keys pump station has as much, beneficial information to the state as we can get.
I think this is a great first step for SDPUD first, go around for climate planning. Just echoing all the things that John had said at the last board meeting, so I won't, go through all those. But I will say, kind of just looking forward, one of the things that looking at climate change planning specifically, is as time continues to move forward, we're going to see a more restrictive regulatory environment coming from the state, conceivably different administrations from the feds as well. And so that's why I think getting planning, getting organized, and being able to take advantage of these things to allow our planning efforts to work towards our ends, opposed to being mandated on by the state, and really being the drivers of our own kind of sustainability bus is the best approach, and this is a great first step. So congratulations to staff.
Okay, well, I guess we need a motion, and Lyndon, she wants us to approve it, but she didn't.
Oh, am I supposed to make the, oh, sorry, I realized I was supposed to make the motion.
What we're going to do?
Yeah, I know.
That's changed.
Remember, lowest level, think of the board.
Okay, all right. So the motion is to adopt the climate action plan for the capital improvement program.
I'll second.
It was so long, it was that long, and I still couldn't read it myself. Okay, got three votes again. All right, next we're going to talk about a fancy camera that costs $150,000. Yeah, I mean, that's
Is it going to be this fun?
yeah. And it takes two of you to justify spending $100,000, so I'm waiting to hear it.
I just got to say.
Answer questions.
Yeah, we're just looking at the new IVAC portable camera unit to do our easements. This camera is compatible with a new system that we have. This new camera goes in anything from 8 to 48 inch pipe, which will help us out a lot.
How much that do we have in our system?
I want to say, well, a little over 50% is 6-inch pipe, which is why we bought the smaller camera 2 years ago.
Right.
Was because we needed the smallest one to get into the 6-inch pipe. The rest of our system is 8-inch and larger.
So half, roughly half.
Yeah, and what we found with the small camera is it looks pretty long, 6 and 8-inch pipe. You start getting bigger than that, and it just doesn't provide enough light, doesn't track very well, and a lot of issues with it that this bigger camera will help us with.
Yeah, and like I said, matches, it goes in, we can swap cameras back and forth, go in small pipes, these smaller easements, and we can go in the bigger pipe. It's kind of got a scissor lift camera head to get it zeroed in the right spot for what we're doing. We used it out at the airport in a demo, and it was taken out of.
The famous airport one with the spike to the line.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
We took it out there to be close to the lines in the airport with it, and it did nothing but take almost 1,000 feet of line, so it was quite impressive.
Well, much of our infrastructure spending is based on unknowns, and we've made it as a board, we've made it a goal to actually have an accurate representation of what our assets were, so we know exactly what we need to spend our money. So in my opinion, this is a step that we need to take. Unfortunately, the other unfortunate part about this is if we haven't, we will find it. So we will find more things this way, but that's good, I guess. We'll stay ahead of the curve instead of behind.
That was one of the things I wanted to bring up real quick is with our aging system that we've got, we all know the problems we ran into. A lot of these easements, I don't believe have ever been cambered. There's not really any way to get out, say the middle of the meadow out here by that dollar store or whatever, the market over here, across from Caro's. That's a good example. Yeah, Rochialo does it. So this is going to enable us to get out in a lot of different places we've never been. And hopefully we don't find a lot, but
You will.
yeah, I'm sure this is gonna be well worth the investment of this camera, the portability of it, to be able to get out in places we've never been before.
Was it standalone camera, or is it interchange with the one you bought the truck for?
It interchanges with the one we bought, that's why we had them come out and demo, instead of having two different systems. We'd like to have one, that's why we're asking for an
So
exception.
one truck, two different cameras, you said that?
Yeah, you can, the only camera that does not work,
So there's two pieces that we're buying with this purchase. One is a new camera and a new tractor that's gonna allow us to do a better job in unloading pipes. The second piece is the mobile, the reel with the cable on it and the computer that collects the data. And those will both be interchangeable with the current truck that we have now. It won't, the mobile reel and computer will run both the new camera we're purchasing and our smaller camera that we bought 2 years ago. It won't run the panorama scanner camera. That we can only run off the truck because it takes a much heavier computer to run it. But it'll run a smaller pan and tilt camera and this new larger pan and tilt camera. And it's small. It's, you know, it's gonna fit, runs off a generator. Yeah, it's got like, you can build like a little dolly kind of thing for it. They'll be able to put it in a tool cat. And get into these places that we can't get the full-size truck to, we've never been able to TV, so. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was just kind of the way we're funding it. We mentioned the airport line. We had, I think we budgeted $300,000 for that repair in this year's CIP. And we're using a fraction of that to actually perform the repair. But what we found when we were in there looking at that was some issues in the surrounding pipes, and so we want to see the rest of the surrounding pipes in that upward trunky trunk main. And this is going to allow us to do that. And so we'll be able to inspect them now and monitor them long-term in that whole area, because that's one of the spots that keeps me up at night of, if something bad happens out there, it's going to be tough to fix. So catching it soon is.
Yeah, so this system, you know, help us find problems for sure, and find problems before they become like big problems.
Yeah.
So it's worth it.
No, I think there's nothing you can do. I guess I just agree with Randy's comments earlier that it's going to result in more money because there's just more things you're going to find. But in the end, it will save money. I appreciate all those things, but yeah, you can find things.
Request board action, approve, match, or to be compatible, as the exception to bid process procedure as outlined in the procedure policy for the sole source purchase of the portable IBAC camera system for use with the district gravity sewer collection system, and 2, authorize staff to purchase the portable IBAC camera system from Jack Devine Supply, Inc. as sole provider in the approximate amount of $103,000.
So moved.
I'll second.
I would have read that one, but that was a long part.
He's a user.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. David Blaine?
I move that we approve the payment of claim for the amount of $1,120,315.44.
Second.
Okay. Speaking of our committee reports, I don't have anything that's been there. How about board member reports?
I was going to say in the spirit of climate planning, on December 11th at 6 p.m. at the South Otago Airport City Hall, the city is having their climate action plan kickoff meeting. A lot of stakeholders from Barton City, SDPUD, all the agencies will be there, in addition to concerned citizens. So if anyone's interested to go, 6 o'clock at the airport on the 11th.
Phil, you want to talk about the water?
Sure, Colorado County Water Agency, and actually Rick Lynn is here today representing the water agency. I think we all know Rick, he did some work with us on alternative energy planning about 4 or 5 years ago. So good to see you today.
It seems short, right?
Oh, 12 years ago.
Yes. Closer to the decade.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And I do have some other good news from Colorado County, the water agency. I mentioned back in August, and I wanted to provide an update today. Kelly and I have worked with Ken and his board to help fund our current water rights project, and they agreed to do so. We currently have a $100,000 budget item there for this work. The water agency has approved funding for us on this work at a 70-30 ratio, so they will pay 70% of the project costs, and I expect most of our 30% will come from our own staff time, largely EGO's time. So it's great to see that. Typically we have a 50-50 match with the water agency, so it seems like our monthly truck spending costs will pay off a little bit, thanks to Kelly for all of her time. And I'll just continue with our GM report. Okay. Let's start with staffing. I have 3 updates today. We are still advertising for an underground repair sewer worker. This is scheduled to close December 12th with interviews in early January. And in engineering, we're also advertising for a project engineer. We're a little concerned about the tight labor market and searching this time of year, but we'll see what we get on this first round that closes on December 19th. So we'll see who applies, and we need to extend this until January. We'll wait and see. And then finally, in customer service, we've been opening a limited term meter tech position has been vacated. Due to resignation, Art is relocating to Cambria for a full-time permanent position there. And so we're planning to start that recruitment in the next week. Next item, I have an update on PCE. Starting with Lukens, you may remember that Lukens received their $2.4 million grant for a carbon treatment system at well number 5. So this is in progress. This is like a 700 gallon per minute well, 600 to 700 right in there. And a couple of weeks ago, Jim held a pre-bid, and we're planning to break ground early next year, and we expect to have that system online by about February of 2021. So that's rolling right along. Tahoe Keys, I just wanted to mention that they hired a new water manager, Daniel Larson, and he started working there. And he attended our SAG meeting. It was about 2 weeks ago. Wahan has been busy with their consultant, AD-HOC. They have completed really a large amount of field work in the last 6 months or so, primarily drilling and sampling that was needed for a complete plume characterization to determine the complete horizontal and vertical extent of PCE contamination at the Y. We expect to get a look at those results in the next month or 2 and then determine the next courses of action. One of those is likely to be the installations of sentinel wells next year. So we're actually hoping for that. And then finally at the district, EGO's been working with Kennedy Jenks to complete life cycle cost estimates for the various PCE remediation alternatives. We have 3 main alternatives we're working with at this time. These were presented and discussed at the recent technical advisory group meeting, and the project team was then directed to perform an additional cost analysis to compare life cycle costs for potable reuse versus treat and discharge to the sanitary sewer. So we'll take a look at those different cost estimates. And I expect we'll see EVO in front of the board in January or February to go over these final cost estimates and provide a more detailed update. Next, I wanted to talk a little bit about power reliability at the district. We're just starting to take a deeper dive into our own power system reliability. We're working with Liberty on power quality, but mostly we want to assess and plan improvements to our own standby power capabilities on both the water and the sewer side. This is in light of the potential planned power shutoffs from Liberty, and obviously coupled with their own severe wildfire threat. So historically on the sewer side, we've had a very high level of standby power, really because of our elevated need for environmental protection at Lake Powell. There's no room for sewer spills, even due to power outage. So these are typically permanent diesel-powered installations, but we do have some gaps even on the sewer side. On the water side, We do have some standby power, but not nearly as extensive as on the sewer side. So we want to make sure that we have enough standby power to fight fires during extended power outages. So in-house, we're doing a comprehensive assessment, looking at all of our sewer pump stations, our wells, our booster stations, where we have standby power, where we need to have standby power, where we need improvements, how much fuel do we need to have on site for various scenarios, and then coordinating with our fuel supplier, it's called Flyers, on their refueling capabilities. So we will also be coordinating with Liberty, the city, the county, Lake Valley, Barton, other water suppliers, the Forest Service, and others as part of this effort. And then I just wanted to mention funding on these standby generators. FEMA is a great source of funding for standby power, these diesel power units. We've been approved for 2 gen sets already at Paloma Well and Polar Booster, and we will continue to pursue additional gen set funding from FEMA next year. And fortunately, we're in great shape with the plant, and we're just finishing our project out front, and we're pretty much good at Luther Pass. We just want to add some additional storage there. So we'll bring more details to Operations Committee as we complete this work.
Yeah, I mean, it's necessary with these intentional blackouts that's going to be coming more frequently. Unfortunately, it's another one of those costs we're going to have to incur.
Right, I think we got lucky this past season, in South.
Yeah, they were all in foothills, they were on hills.
Right, there's some on the West Shore, I heard, but all the way down this far. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, so how do you determine how long is enough?
We're going to be, on the sewer side, we really want to continue to operate all stations long term. And we want to be able to refuel those,
Well, it depends on where you are with your tanks, right?
Yeah.
Hit you when they're full or.
So on the water side, we're going to look at a number. We're going to get the water model out and look at a bunch of different scenarios. First see our existing system, how many days if they shut the power off tomorrow, we would assume tanks are at their probably low operating level under that scenario. Just how long can we operate our system at what level, complete power outage, and then we'll take a look at where weaknesses are and look at shoring up those areas, maybe providing additional standby power, or maybe we need more fuel at some stations. So we'll be bringing this back to the board to determine our levels of service that we want to deliver to the community on the water side.
Because my concern has always been that you have a relatively short power generation cycle, even with the investment what we've done recently outside. And so when things hit the fan at work, the assumption we have to make is that we're going to be able to continue to get large shipments of diesel at any given period of time. It's a difficult assumption.
Yeah, that could be a problem. I mentioned Flyers, that's our fuel supplier. Are they be able to get in here?
Right.
Depending on the situation.
Where are they based on?
They have a local facility. I don't know where else they're coming out of, or if it's part of a larger
Some of
operation.
it comes out of Sacramento. We have Flyers up here, but Cliff also has contacts of people down in Carson and Reno.
See, that's the good news, is we've got 2 separated skills we can have
Yes.
on, and you're not gonna have them both shut down at the same time, most likely.
Most likely. Flyers, at this point, I understand, does not have a backup generator.
Yeah, this was,
If it is both, I'm in trouble.
yeah, that's an important point, and as part of this work, we found out that Flyers doesn't have a standby generator at their local pumping
So to
facility.
get it out of the ground, right?
Yeah, so I think, we're going to work with them to.
Yeah, you know, exactly, they got all the fuel and nothing to pump it with.
So they're going to work with them to add that, so they have that capacity.
Yeah,
for us.
get them then, yeah.
There's a small.
I think they're in the process of trying to purchase one, but if something happens and they do not have one, we're taking a look at if we have a spare generator, we're gonna go over
and
and
get on the fuel.
hook it up and get some fuel going. We also have some contacts, like I said, down in Carson, so we have a couple different options, but Flyers, they really go out of their way to help us. In 2017, when we had Luther Pass going for a week, they made us their priority at that point. So we're in pretty good standings with everybody.
Okay, I have one last item on vegetation management and fuels reduction. Just wanted to mention a couple projects that we're currently working on. as part of our pre-disaster wildfire mitigation and fuel reduction planning. And these two projects are fuel reduction near the treatment plant and a grant application to assess our outlying facilities. So first I want to talk about, we've received a CTC implementation grant for hazard fuel reduction on about 100 acres owned by the district. It's just to the south and east, adjacent to the treatment plant. Out here abutting Forest Service properties, the treatment plant, Beverly Creek, and our treatment neighbors. So that's about 100 acres. We had 10 contractors attend our pre-qualification site walk on November 6th, and 5 of them submitted a pre-qualification packet. So at the next board meeting, we'll be bringing this information forward, seeking your approval to move forward with the bidding process. We expect the project to be fully grant funded and completed within the next 1 or 2 years. So that's great to see that happening. And the second item, looking ahead and outward past the treatment plant at our 80-plus facilities out in the field, we are working on a project to assess our defensible spaces, our vegetation management, and then develop a plan to complete fuels reduction on those sites. We've already received an invitation from the CTC to apply for their Prop 68 funds. They have $250,000 slated for fuels reduction planning, and we plan on doing this as part of a joint project with Tile City and North Tile PV. And we think this is really highly likely for approval next March from the CTC. And this will provide the funding for Forester to come out and visit our site and put together a comprehensive fuels reduction plan on all of these sites, except for the 100 acres that I just discussed. And so this planning document will then be used to apply for CAL FIRE funding in 2020, and then for implementation work in 2021. So we're getting close on all of our 80-plus sites to being much more fire safe. And that's my report for today. I was going to mention Frank Rush. I think everybody knows Frank is leaving the city by the end of January. So sad to see him go. He plans to be at our next board meeting.
Very good. We're going to have an update on our liability program. Nancy. Not this time?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Next time, Nancy, maybe?
Yeah.
We'll get that next time.
Okay. Wow. I think we just did a 30-minute record.
Gary is something.
Yeah. Here it comes.
We'll take more than 30 minutes. Piggybacking on what John reported on the PCE investigation that the regional board's doing, they've done a pretty, from the information I've seen, done a pretty amazing job with all the holes they've punched in the ground and characterizing the plume both vertically and horizontally. And one of the things Eva and I have talked about is looking at taking that information and updating the groundwater management, or the groundwater modeling that the DRI has done on the plume. And so we have a lot better set of data now than we had when the model was originally developed. And so Eva was taking a look at that to see how that could be integrated to actually more accurately characterize the plume and how it's going to function as groundwater moves. So that could be a real benefit of having that information. And just a quick report on, there was a SAG meeting about 2 weeks ago, Friday, after the last board meeting. Fairly well attended by some of the other agencies and water purveyors. Both Lukens and Keys had people here. Eva did a good job. We ran through kind of where we had been, what's going on with the groundwater management plan now that it's been, the alternatives that's been approved as an alternative to Sigma, GSP, and what sorts of things need to be done to the current groundwater management plan to get it updated, because there's recommendations from DWR, and we're looking for recommendations from the other stakeholders. And then Eva also gave a presentation on
some of the current status of the groundwater basin, based on recent work that he's done. My understanding, and talking to you, he's going to give a more comprehensive report on this to the board going forward, probably in January, I think. So that'll be something to look at coming up.
Okay, good. Anybody else have anything? Now we can see the, past the future meetings, and if nothing